Gold is the perfect thing to steal because it's untraceable. You can melt it down. I think they sell it at Costco if I'm not mistaken. I'm just so blown away they ship gold across the ocean this is 2023. We're in the digital age. They're sending gold. It's with currency. I'm losing sympathy for these guys. They're asking for it.
Welcome to the very first episode of The Fraud Complex, the podcast where we unpack the wildest real-life fraud cases. And trust me, and trust Josh, that these are cases that are stranger than fiction. I'm your host, Garth Sharif, CPA, that means an accountant, CIA, educator, and a guy who loves unwrapping fraud cases like they're a box of ethical chocolates. And that is a terrible reference to a great movie. I'm also joined by Josh Sager, who's going to introduce himself.
Thanks, Garth. I'm excited to join you. I'm Josh. I'm a actor, comedian, writer. This is my cat, Cujo. And we are pumped to talk about fraud, which is something I'm fascinated with. I'm always thinking about ways to boost my income, and maybe fraud is one of those ways.
You could look at this show as a way to commit fraud. That is not the intent. But that's why we're bringing Josh onto this show.
I'll take from it what I'm going to take from it. Yeah, my first question, did you say you were in the CIA?
I know, I should have provided the full acronym there because it does sound cool, but that's a certified internal auditor. So
okay,
I've already
nice
committed
cover.
fraud.
You've already slipped. Your cover's blown. We know you're in the Secret Service, the CIA, something. Sure, maybe it's an accounting thing. I don't know. But anyway, your secret's safe with me.
All right, so we're gonna get into our first episode, the inaugural episode of the Fraud Complex. I got a question for you, Josh. What is your favorite heist film? Heist.
I love heist movies. Ocean 11 comes to mind. That's the only one that comes to mind.
Guess it's the best.
It's clearly the best.
Clearly the best. I love Ocean's 11. I also loved maybe an obscure, if you can have an obscure Bill Murray film, I love Quick Change. It's one of my favorite films, and it's a heist film. It's 1988, Gina Davis, Bill Murray. And so, Josh, thinking Ocean's 11, when you think about a heist or a heist film, what comes into your head? What's the imagery that you see in front of you?
Yeah, there's a lot of players in every heist. There's a demolitions guy. There's a computers guy or girl. A lot of the time they're girls. There's someone who doesn't play by the rules. And I feel like there's a ninja a lot doing sort of grappling, like rappelling down with ropes and sneaking through lasers. It seems like you have to have a lot of skills. Also, you have to be really well dressed if you're the lead heist person.
This is a lot of draw from Ocean's 11, Josh. That is your, because I feel like you're roll calling everyone. You need the gang. They got to have their special skills. You have all the things covered. You got to have a villain. Who is the villain in Ocean's 11? It's Andy Garcia, isn't it?
Yeah, that sounds right. Casino owner, I believe.
Yeah, I think he's a casino owner. So I want you to have that thought and what you would think with a heist or heist film. See if that lines up, because we're going to get into a heist. Our very first Fraud Complex show is about a heist. I do have another question for you. What do you know about gold?
Gold is the perfect thing to steal because it's untraceable. You can melt it down. I think they sell it at Costco if I'm not mistaken. It's just like this brilliant, unlike diamonds, even unlike cash. I think they have like serial numbers on cash and probably chips in there. So gold is where it's at.
Where did you get this? I learned that from this case. I didn't know that gold was untraceable once you melt it. Where did that come from?
I guess it's just part of me wants to be a bank robber, and I've collected enough info over the years. I think in the back of my head, I've been giving it some thought.
Clearly, because you know way more about gold than I do before reading this. I had no idea about that. So what we're going to get into, Josh, believe it or not, is going to combine the first two questions I asked you. Gold, heist, and I'm going to add one more word. Airport.
Oh.
Airport. gold heist. That's what we're going to do.
Already I'm thinking the airport adds a whole other layer of complexity.
We're thinking Die Hard 2, snakes. What else are you thinking?
Were you saying snakes on a plane?
I was thinking snakes. Gold on a plane? I don't think that works, but...
Gold on a plane? No. You can barely check an extra bag. I don't know if you're going to smuggle gold on your carry-on.
So we've energized this case. We got a team. We're in the air. We might even be able to check in, get an overhead space, an extra one. Let's do some work here. I'm going to table set for you, Josh. We're going to go through this, and we'll bring the CPA lens, and I'm going to ask Josh what he's thinking as I unveil some of the detail of an actual airport gold heist. The largest gold heist in Canadian history. And I guess there's been American or European gold heists that have been larger, since I have to preface that. I'm not sure. Did not research that part. And before we begin our look at this airport gold heist, I want to thank the journalistic work of the CBC show, which is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, The Fifth Estate. Their journalists did a lot of work to uncover what happened and get us the detail that we need to go into. And that's the work of Timothy Sawa, Andrew Culbert, Stephen D'Souza, and Nitin Chopra. And before we begin, so here's another thing I'm going to ask you to do, Josh, to get the audience ready and excited. I sent you a quote. This is a quote from the case lead in the Toronto Airport gold heist. His name is Police Chief Nishan. If you have that quote, just read the quote, and just to give you some excitement getting into the story.
So the quote is, "This story is a sensational one which we jokingly say belongs in a Netflix series."
And I'm going to add this part to that, Josh, or an amazing podcast called The Fraud Complex. He didn't say that. I'm saying it for him.
He should have said it, but we said it. You said it.
It's been done. So let's get into this, Josh. The viewers, see, of the first inaugural podcast. The listeners. The date, April 17th, 2023. The place, the Toronto International Airport, known as the Pearson Airport. The time, the mid-afternoon. Josh, I sent you some images. Mm-hmm. I want you to open up image number 1 and tell me what you're looking at. What are you looking at?
Looks like an Air Canada flight. Yeah, it's just an airplane flying. Looks like above a hangar or something like that.
That's it. We're starting off easy, Josh. I wanted to bring you in. You're just looking at a flight, and that flight, the picture you're looking at, is Air Canada Flight 881. And on April 17th, 2023, at 3:56 p.m., that flight, which I'm not sure if that's the actual flight with the gold in it, landed at Toronto Pearson Airport with approximately, you might know more about what I'm about to say than I do, given your expertise in gold, 6,600 gold bars weighing over 400 kilograms, and for those in the imperial system, 881 pounds of gold, valued at 20 million Canadian. I have to do a lot of exchange things here. Or 15 million US. This gold was ordered from a gold refinery in Zurich, Switzerland, and that's where the flight came from. It was supposed to go to Toronto Dominion or TD Bank. It also contained over $2.5 million of foreign currency coming from Zurich, landing in Toronto on April 17th, 2023 at 3:56. That was supposed to go to the Vancouver bullion, which I thought was things you use to make soup, but I guess it's also where you put foreign currency and currency exchange. Josh, what do you feel like now? We got a little bit of this. We got a gold on a plane landing in a Toronto airport. What do you got?
I'm just so blown away they ship gold across the ocean this is 2023. We're in the digital age. They're sending gold. It's with currency. I'm losing sympathy for these guys. They were asking for it. You put a bunch of gold. How much did you say it weighed?
It's almost 881 pounds. And so this is something that happens on a regular basis, just from my research, by the way. Yeah, in a time of cryptocurrency, we could quibble whether we should be doing this, but this is happening, even though I think gold is actually in demand. So continuing. So at this point, it lands in Toronto Pearson Airport. on April 17th, 3:56, nothing of note. The gold, which is in a cargo box, I guess, and it's not really marked gold or valuable, be honest with you.
Oh, that's good.
That's great. Lands, it is taken by a forklift to a facility. And all of the standard controls facility at the Toronto Pearson Airport. At this point, everything's going well. Nothing has happened. No heist, no ninja. So all the standard controls that would allow the gold to go to the facility, authorization, tracking, shipping, nothing is going on. It just gets to the warehouse in the airport. Do you think something goes wrong from here, Josh?
Well, I know something's going to go wrong because he wouldn't have chosen it. But that said, they've taken all the precautions. They didn't mark it clearly gold in this box, so I don't see what could happen. What could possibly go wrong from here?
We're going to talk a lot about something, Josh, as a CPA, talking to a non-CPA. This might get to the point where you can maybe attend to your cat. Internal controls and things around internal controls. Yes, maybe marking. I feel like every package is marked, maybe, even fragile. Like gold, fragile, just something to say. Maybe if you put gold on it, you draw more attention to it. We'll come back to the fact that this cargo box looked like other cargo boxes. So, 5:50 p.m., Josh, on April 17th, 2023, the cargo with the gold is with other cargo in this warehouse. Josh, I want to ask you to open up an image. And just 1 second, I want you to think to yourself, what does this cargo warehouse look like? What do you think it could look like? And then open image number 2 and tell me what you're looking at.
I can imagine it would look like pretty nondescript warehouse. Not a lot of exciting stuff. Bunch of boxes that look the same, like bunch of shipping containers. Now I'll open it up. Oh, it looks way cooler than I thought. It looks like...
I should tell you something, Josh. Your first thought was correct. The image I sent you was from Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's the card.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wanted...
All those secrets in wooden boxes, going a mile long.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm disappointed.
See, I know. That was just
a dirty trick.
It was me having some fun. But in fact, your first description was right on. It's a nondescript kind of warehouse. Just imagine a plain vanilla warehouse. And it's not like the Raiders of the Lost Ark warehouse, which is... I would love to be in that one. That looked pretty cool too. So, continuing. So the cargo with the 881 pounds of gold worth, I don't know if I should go Canadian or US. We'll go US. $15 million US is sitting in the warehouse. This is all normal. Now, this is where we get into the stuff, okay? 6:23 on that day, 6:23 p.m., a white truck backs into the loading dock of the cargo facility. The driver gets out. Spoiler, Josh, I'm going to give you a spoiler here. That driver is part of the heist. The driver
You need a
is
driver.
part of the heist.
I forgot about the driver.
You need a driver. We know that from a lot of things, including Baby Driver, I think, where it's in the name of the film. So, Josh, what do you think that, knowing that this driver is part of the heist, will get the gold? What do you think this driver is wearing?
Definitely in uniform. Definitely some sort of a fake ID or a badge or some, at least carrying himself or herself with authority and confidence. And I think that's probably the biggest piece. Just looking like you're supposed to be where you are.
You're good. I think you have been planning a gold heist. So if you open up image number 3, this is not the driver. We'll get to the driver. What are you looking at, Josh?
I'm looking at a goofy-looking guy with a beard and glasses wearing a reflector vest. Looks like you could shove him over with one pinky finger.
Yeah.
So he reminds me a lot like me.
Yeah, well, that wasn't what I was going for, but now I can actually see that. The vest is what I was going for, and you nailed it. The driver was coming in as a cargo picker-upper. Again, my technical on this is not great, but someone who's just a normal person wearing that. I guess that's the uniform that someone that picks up cargo from Air Canada would wear. So very blending in. I thought you might have gone like, coming in with, the John Woo double guns. So right now, very peaceful way this is all happening. So I'm glad you went that way because you could have gone another way. But the way you have it is the way it's going. So you're saying from what you think that this is it sounds like a peaceful, non-violent way to get the gold. Because you were thinking he's coming in looking like someone who's supposed to pick it up. And you said you think he would have something that would be used to deceive the person who has control of the gold. What did you think that was?
Yeah, I would think, and maybe he's packing, maybe he's got a pistol in his back pocket or something like that. But I was thinking, at first you show up and you just try to blend in and you got a smile and maybe you even have a badge or some sort of ID or something like that.
Yeah, so I can't tell if he had a badge. I don't think he did. But he did have a way of identifying that he was an authorized receiver of goods. Dramatic pause. I don't know if dramatic pauses work well on podcasts, so no dramatic pause. I take that back. Here we go, Josh. Here it is. Ready? It was a fraudulent waybill. That was the ticket. The fraudulent waybill. Josh, do you know what a waybill is?
It sounds like something that is so boring. It's boring and brilliant in its boringness because someone would have to be really, really labor intensive to make something like that and to make it convincing. And you just don't think a thief is going to go that route.
By the way, this is why we have a CPA and a non-CPA way doing this because, I hear waybill. I'm like, waybill. I'm excited. My hair's on fire. And Josh being a regular human being, because I'd rather it, be the double guns. Why can't it be John Woo style? But it is maybe a little boring. But I'm sure my description of it will not bore you. Here's the definition of a waybill, Josh. Sit back and get ready to have excitement flood through your veins. A waybill is a document prepared by the carrier of a shipment of goods that contains details of the shipment, route, and charges.
I feel like now I understand the true path to riches is through the details. How about that?
Okay, I like that was a positive way because I am going to continue down this waybill track here because I'm going to ask you, have you ever seen a waybill? Do you think you've seen a waybill based on my description?
I don't know, other than, a little invoice for delivery to my house or something like that. I don't know if I've seen
waybill. Well, guess what, Josh? It's your lucky day. If you open up image 4, believe it or not, take a look at image 4 and let that wash over you.
Ooh, it's got stamps.
Like a cool ocean breeze.
It looks so authentic. It's got like the old dot matrix computer papers style on one side. It's got print that's a little hard to read, but it's got stamps of authority like advice, notice, Air Canada, final audit, electronic release, stamp, stamp, stamp. I mean, I see this and I think, yeah, this is a boring dude. He's got the paperwork. He just wants to get home. Let's help him. Okay, let's help him get this gold as quickly as possible.
It's almost like this is a real life story that you had been thinking about for a long time because you're like, this is the way I would have done this. Boring guy, nondescript, vest, waybill. Maybe the waybill. I think you were thinking waybill, didn't know how to say it technically. Now you know. This actually might be helping you commit a gold heist.
I'm a lot closer now than I was, 20 minutes ago. Okay. I feel like I could do this. I feel like I could pull this off. I could wear the vest. I can have the goofy smile. I can have the boring waybill. I even know the word, what to call it now.
Now we know waybill. Well, here's the thing with that waybill. It does, you said it yourself, it does look very valid and it looks like the real deal. And it is. And this is where we'll do the CPA thing in terms of why this happened. Where were the weaknesses that this group exploited to steal the gold? So what you saw is a duplicate of an Air Canada waybill that was actually for shipping of seafood that was delivered the day before. So this was duplicated by someone with access. So they reprinted it with access to the Air Canada waybill's printer because that waybill is to the receiver of goods, which I had to research, has a unique identifier and will be checked to allow a cargo item to be released to, in this case, the driver. And interesting, the details of that waybill, and I can't read it either. I gave you an image from the police reveal of that evidence, still contained the food items on it from the seafood shipment. I wanted to see, what did they order? Was it octopus, the shrimp? Like, what was in that seafood box? And I'm also concerned if seafood is traveling by air. Is that not a risk? I just thought about that. I don't know if I like that, but it's about the gold, not whether seafood is traveling by air over long distances and I should be worried about sushi. You didn't think that,
well,
were you?
I'm concerned now. So wait, you're saying this is the actual waybill that they used, the fraudulent waybill?
That is so what you're looking at is the actual fraudulent waybill. So they replicated a waybill that was used previously, duplicated it, changed some of the details so it would function as a waybill that the cargo person working in the cargo facility would authenticate and say, yeah, you're good to take that box.
It doesn't seem like there's any identifying thing about seafood that, unless there's some sort of acronym or code, which I suspect there is. But the print is so faint, like from this old ass printer, I could see just being like, yeah, whatever. He's got the thing. He's got the stamps. That's
the key, right? It came from the Air Canada waybill printer, so that there is a level of authenticity that way. And you're right. I mean, you're pointing out some really good stuff, Josh. The person who would actually release the cargo to the driver, who's part of the heist, they're not looking at the details of the cargo. They're looking for the identifier for them to be able to release the cargo. So whether there was octopus or shrimp or whatever your seafood.
I have a question.
Is it about seafood?
It could be. Did the person working in the airport who has to release the gold, did they know what was in that cargo? Or is it just a box?
Good stuff. This is good stuff, Josh. This is what we're going to get to internal controls. No, they did not. This is another challenge with what happened here. A lot of these gaps that you're identifying, this is why we're bringing you on here, because you can see these as well as any CPA. These were exploited by the heist team. And this is what we say when we talk about technically internal control weaknesses. So this waybill looked legit. It had the ability to give access. Now, what I did read from another expert, there should have potentially been another document that was provided by the driver, but this would have been part of the procedures that Air Canada's cargo personnel would need to know. The air cargo personnel followed procedures. So this might have been, again, bad procedures. One document allowing access, and that document was fraudulent. So I'm going to send you another picture, Josh. The driver got in with the fraudulent waybill. The Air Canada employee at the cargo facility validated the waybill. And now you can open image 5.
This looks like the warehouse, and I see the reflector vest, so that must be the driver. This other person wearing a different color reflector vest, so you know they're on opposite sides. They're opening a container or a garage leading to a container that looks like, I'm thinking, is that the gold? They got the forklift right there. Maybe everything's all ready for the heist.
The heist is taking place in that picture, Josh. That is actually the picture that's showing, because they had cameras in the warehouse.
Yeah.
So that is the gold being taken by fork truck. And the next picture, picture 5, if you want to open that one. Do you know what that is, Josh?
Oh, it's the getaway truck.
It is the truck that entered to get the cargo, and that is the exit of said truck that is carrying 881 pounds of gold worth $15 million US, and also, just as you know, an add-on, 2.5 million in foreign currency, leaving the air cargo facility at 7:30 p.m. on April 17th, 2023. Heist done.
How long did it take? Start to back.
You know what? Great question. That truck got to the cargo center at 6:23 p.m. And this is very efficient. I wish I could work as efficiently as this heist. So what time did I say? So 6:23 they get there, and 7:30 they're gone. That's a good efficient
in and
heist.
out in what, 53 minutes?
Yeah.
I
right.
can't imagine. I've picked up relatives at Toronto Pearson Airport, and it's taken me at least, I don't think I've been in and out in an hour. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So this person is better than any regular person going to an airport, let alone if anybody knows Toronto Pearson Airport. No one goes in there and out there, even if you're just going to just look at planes. It's a good 10 hours. You're going to be stuck just trying to get there and trying to get out. This heist, 50, 60 minutes, done.
Can you imagine how this guy felt? Like, did he really think this was going to go that smoothly? Or did he think he was going to have to bust some heads, or worst case scenario, get arrested? Or it went so smooth.
So smooth. Now, here's the other thing. You might be thinking, getaway, right? Will someone notice? Okay, I'm going to add some more detail to this. What do you know about Brinks?
The security
right.
company, they're sort of the standard company with like 2 armed guards, and you see them carrying cash out of banks and stuff.
Yeah, and often I feel like they're in movies like The Town, and they're the poor guys just trying to secure the thing that they don't know what's in the back of the truck. So Brinks, interesting enough, that company which you described correctly would have been normally the responsible company to take the shipment from the airplane with maybe a little bit of transition, but almost immediately. But they decided, Brinks, because they were responsible for transporting the gold to its destination, they decided to use a special Air Canada service. And I should be clear, I'm not blaming Air Canada for this. This is our very first podcast. We don't need litigation. Called AC Secure, which, by the way, Josh, didn't seem to be so secure. I'm gonna call it AC Insecure. I actually am a frequent flyer. Please do not hurt my status, because I really need that overhead bin space when I travel. AC Secure was used as a third party to hold the gold so that the Brinks truck could pick it up at 9:30 p.m. that same day. So that's a lot of getaway time, because that's when the heist was discovered. 7:30 p.m., the truck leaves on April 17th. 9:30 p.m., the Brinks trucks pulls up. The Brinks guys, I don't know, how do you think those Brinks guys were? They came out, had the cup of coffee, picking up some gold.
Day in the life, probably nothing out of the ordinary. Probably they do this every day. Some crazy amount of money goes through their trucks, and they don't even think about it. And they're not on alert, really. I mean, how could you be day after day? It's not like they're watching prisoners that can move around. This is just stuff. And it's
just stuff. I don't know this. I couldn't get this level of detail. But what do you think happened when they got there at 9:30? Like, I don't know if they knew it was gold, but where's the cargo? They went to go, and it's like, it's not there.
I'll tell you. And I really think this is what happened. Canada and Canadians, I'm originally Canadian, and I would think this could happen in Canada. It just doesn't really happen. And I would think there's been some sort of mistake. Airplanes, they lose my luggage all the time. I would think, these airplane guys, they messed up. It's probably here. We just don't know which box it's in. I would not immediately jump to someone escaped with a heist style maneuver.
So what I hear, Josh, is and I'm Canadian originally and probably forever. I'm hearing that they might have thought about the Canadianness of this all, and that would have given them more time to get away. Yeah. Because they'd be like, sorry, $50 million of gold missing. Sorry, did somebody put it somewhere else? Sorry.
And that's what I love about Canada. Like, we give each other the benefit of the doubt. Maybe not in this instance.
This was not a good choice to do that. Not a good choice. So it also brings up another conversation we'll have for our CPA audience about using third parties, making sure you know what they're doing, their authorization, because there's lawsuits happening here. Because who's to blame in terms of where the handoffs were. So at this point, in the late night of April 17th, 2023, we know, like, it might have been not 9:30, and for Canadian politeness, 10:30, 11:30. I'm not really sure when everyone got involved and said gold is missing, but at some point, late on April 17th or early 18th of 2023, Brinks, TD, Air Canada, the Vancouver Bullion soup company, and the police. They know they have a gold heist on their hands. But we still have many questions, Josh. I'm sure you still have many questions because the heist is over. The heist is over. And I just want to make sure, Josh, because there might be an after heist look at this, but for our intents and purposes, we're not going to focus so much on how they got away and what they did, even though we can have some questions and I do have some answers. We're going to focus on how they actually executed this and get into the nitty gritty. So we talked about the driver, right, Josh? How many people do you think were involved in the planning of this heist?
I don't think one person could have pulled this off. There's a driver. I don't know how. I mean, to be honest, we don't even know if this driver knew what was going on. Maybe it was just, hey, Ralph, my neighbor, I need you to cover for me at work. You want to pick up this package? Okay. I think he was in on it. But
Why Ralph?
I don't know why I went to Ralph. It seems like Ralph is a great name for a burglar. Like, Ralph's up for it.
I have the name of the driver, so we'll match it up to Ralph. It is not Ralph. You were that one. You were not so on the ball with. But I like Ralph as being all getaway drivers. So you're right. There's some complexity as the plan. It might have involved other countries, potentially Dubai. But we'll just stick to the smaller story about this. And again, we're thinking about some questions. Like, for the heist to have happened, what do the heisters have to know?
One thing they had to know is what time this needed to go down. In between the delivery, getting it off the plane, and the Brinks company officially picking it up. They knew they had, a 3-4 hour window?
Right.
And just to get that intel, I don't know someone on the inside, I would be guessing.
Oh, you're onto it. You're onto it, Josh. Very astute of you, right? There's information that someone would have to have that's very specific, like only Air Canada and maybe Brinks would know. So someone on the inside, they'd also have to know the flight had the gold, right? They also have to know this flight, Air Canada 881, traveling from Zurich to Toronto Pearson Airport, had something. And this is going to get into when we start laying this out here, into one of the deficiencies in this whole process, probably more on Air Canada than anybody else. Don't sue me, Air Canada. Something called, and you get a significant deficiency called a lack of segregation of duties. Josh, that's what it's called, a lack of segregation of duties.
You're going to be a flying coach. You're going to be in the back by the bathroom in the middle seat. This gets out. I'm sorry. It's not looking good for you on future Air Canada flights. Please continue.
Don't put me in the middle seat by the bathroom, please, Air Canada. I'm still going to fly with you. I'm just not going to bring any gold with me. So we're going to get into what you said. There are many people involved. In fact, there's a lot. And actually, there's a lot more I'm going to use a term I learned in the hard streets of where I grew up, a place called Oshawa, Ontario, Canada, where a lot of people got caught up in the fencing of the gold. The fencing. Oh. Is that correct? Selling the hot gold.
That's a cool term, fencing.
Fencing, I'm not sure.
You take a stolen item and you don't just sell it, you fence it.
You fenced it. So obviously there's a police investigation, we'll get into that, but we're going to think about what happened in the planning stage. But many arrests, many charges, but it's interesting with the planners and the driver. So let's get into who planned and executed the heist. I'm going to give you, Toronto police suspect 3 people pulling this off. Again, there might be more in the plan. There's definitely more on trying to fence the gold. But here we go. I'm going to give you some names and just set this up. Okay, so this is Durante King McLean. It's the driver. That's the person you saw in the vest. That's not Durante that you saw in the image I gave you, because that was just a stock image. Okay. So
okay.
Yeah, the vest, though, he was wearing. So he was identified because... How do you think he was identified? This is an interesting part of this. He was identified by the police.
Well, they caught him on camera, right?
They caught him on camera, but it wasn't enough to identify his name.
Do they have to sign in to get there?
You're close. The waybill. He touched the waybill, and the waybill had to end up in Air Canada's hand. So the police, that's why the police have it as evidence, fingerprint. Fingerprint, old school detective work. And Durante had a criminal history, so they identified him. Another person that was identified, and this took some time, so this is the part we won't get too much into, because a lot of the identification of the Toronto police work came on once the gold was out on the street being fenced and melted, and we can talk about what happened to the gold. It's gone. They know how to turn over the gold pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But Arslan Chowdhury, he's described in the Toronto Police charging document as the most involved in planning the theft, and allegedly, as it said in the document, the top dog. He had no connection, Chowdhury, to Air Canada or Brinks. And I couldn't find out too much about him. Like, who would he be in Oceans? Who would Chowdhury be?
Isn't there someone who runs the operations but doesn't do the heist, but sort of oversees everything and is like the master? Like, he's got the file that George Clooney needs to take care of the heist.
There was a person like that in Ocean's 11. I remember in the town, it's that Irish actor, very famous. He's the one who owns a flower shop, if I remember correctly, and he's the one who gets all the detail for the bank heist. I really like that film. So that's who he is. So there's not a lot of information. He still, as recording of this podcast, has not been caught, and there's some thought about where he might be, ... Dubai. That's not necessarily information for our purposes. So here we come to Simran Panesar. So Simran Panesar. This person, so those are the three that we're going to really focus on, but Simran is the key person. Why do you think Simran Panesar is the key person that we're going to focus on here?
Insider.
Josh,
guy on the inside. Yeah.
You are on fire like melted gold. I'm trying to throw in the gold now.
If it was me, I would be sitting in a gold swivel chair right now. And no one would be the wiser.
If you could get your hands on the fenced gold, you turn it into a swivel chair.
A nice office chair, exactly to my, my proportions.
Your dimensions?
My dimensions.
Do you think gold will make a comfortable chair to sit in?
Yeah, I do, because it's formed exactly to how my body sits perfectly, and it would just, no one else could sit on it comfortably, but I could sit on it.
You
with
seem
comfort.
to know a lot about the malleability of gold. This is the right case to start us off. I'm very happy with choosing the Toronto Airport gold heist. So, yes, you are absolutely right. Simran Panesar is the man inside. He was the acting supervisor in operations control with Air Canada. Now, these are, I should mention, for purposes that I'm not clear on, we don't have a legal department here at the Fraud Complex, Josh. I should have told you that before? Maybe? Before you said yes?
I'm a Rolling Stone. I'm willing to go along with, we've burned Air Canada already. Whatever happens.
We took down Air Canada. I thought we took down someone else too. I felt like, and now I don't.
Brinks isn't going to be happy either.
Brinks won't be happy. Air Canada. I feel like the Vancouver Bullion and Exchange Company or whatever it is, they might not be happy being associated with soup, which is not, I don't think, the right use of bullion. They may still might. Our goal is to make many people unhappy, I think, right now. But I just want to say, just for purposes of also due process, these are suspects by Toronto Police.
Right.
They've been charged, but they have not at this time been prosecuted or found guilty of anything. So here, we're going to focus on Simran. So you brought up some things. So let's get into the mind of the heisters.
The alleged heisters.
The alleged, see? You are my legal department. That was very legal. Thank you.
You throw in alleged, you can say whatever the hell you want.
Now I'm not sure if I'm trusting my legal department, because I'm not sure if I just put alleged in front of something, I can say whatever I want. But if that's covered by the Constitution and Charter of Rights and Freedoms, then I'll do it, and I'll probably face consequences. So let's get into the mind of the alleged heisters. Okay. So I'm going to go through, some things. You can also let me know if you think this is like step by step, right? So I thought about this in 3 steps. They've probably thought about this with more complexity. I thought, if I'm planning this heist, I need to know there's a plane carrying gold and not carrying seafood or not carrying whatever thing that is not as valuable, but gold. So first, we would need to know the flight details, where it's taking off, where it's landing, and what it's carrying. The second thing I would need to know to plan this in advance is to know that the goods are going to AC Secure, that warehouse, that Air Canada warehouse, which again, allegedly should be called AC Insecure. I did it.
Oh,
I did it.
Love
I put
it.
it allegedly, so Air Canada, but that still might not stop them from downgrading me when I go. I am traveling soon, so maybe I'm going to stop that. Anyway, so you need to know that the cargo is going to that facility. And then I thought, the final thing, and there can be other steps as well, you need to have access to AC Secure, and that's, it's no spoiler by the waybill. And then we also, as part of 3, getting access to AC Secure, getting access to the gold, and then having some getaway time. So all these 3 things have to happen. And they did. So the heisters needed to find ways of doing this. So when we talk about this, what do you think Simran was able to do as the inside person? Given those 3 steps, you have to know the flight details, you have to know the contents, you have to have someone, the driver, get access, you have to have something to show to the person working at the cargo place, and then you have to get away.
I think Simran had everything because he was the acting supervisor. So he knew what was in those boxes. He knew what time they were coming. He knew what the waybill was supposed to look like. He had access to the printer. Also, he probably just knew who's the guy, doing the receiving this shift. Like, there's probably all these other little small variables that he was like, this is the night. Because this probably happens, once a month, a couple times a year, a big shipment. And he probably had to think, what's the ideal scenario? I think this is the night.
You're right on here, right? So you're describing that Simran would need to have access to that data, and then also other points of access to make this look like a regular pickup. And that's exactly what happened. Remember I said segregation of duties, finding control weaknesses. So Simran was the acting operations manager. But, the question is, he seems to have access to a lot of things that together could allow someone to do this. And from our learning objectives, the question is, should he? A spoiler, the answer is no, you're not supposed to. This person is not supposed to have this much access to all these things, right? Maybe one thing, but the fact that he had the access to all of them, that's the challenge. And this is this is a quote from one of the journalists, one of the investigative journalists, Nitin Chopra. Those who are involved, they knew that our system was weak, and they were referring to Air Canada's system. And they're not just a computer systems, but we talked about an actual printer. I'm going to give you another quote from the Crown document. That's the prosecutors that are investigating this with the police. Here's the quote. I want you to digest it and let me know what you think of this. The quote from the Crown document: Air Canada conducted an analysis of its computers after the heist and found that Panesar, that's Simran, his last name is Panesar, had searched the system for the incoming flight containing the gold and tracked its movement. Once the plane landed, they say he, Simran, began tracking the container holding the gold.
This could have been detected if there was some simple alert for, hey, who's looking for gold on our flights? If you're searching for that, maybe that's a red flag, and maybe someone should ask, that should have pinged somebody else to ask some questions.
And what you're describing, Josh, is what's called a detective control. Something as when someone is in a system doing something wrong, that there's some sort of alert sent out. There could have also been something as a preventative control. Did he need access to the inventory system for his job? And it's possible he needed that information. He was privy to it. And that might have been okay. But the problem is this person has access to that. We got to go now to step 2, right? So step 2, he knows there's valuable gold and foreign currency on flight 881 coming from Zurich to Toronto. Whether he should know that or not, it might be part of his job. Maybe there should have been an alert if it wasn't, and maybe he definitely should not have had access, like with some password or anything, any computer control to have that. But let's be nice. Simran's on the run. It's not that I can feel bad for Simran, but he's on the gold run. So let's say he's okay with that. The next step is he knows the gold is in the AC warehouse. He's working with the driver. He's got to get the gold out. Do you remember how he got the gold out, Josh?
You just use that waybill.
If we're going to have t-shirts, that's the one. Just use that waybill.
Just use that waybill.
Just use that waybill.
Bring that waybill to the bank.
Bring waybill all the time. You're absolutely right. It's that waybill. So when we talk about, these have to happen together for the gold to leave the cargo. So Simran had access to the inventory system, saw the gold, but he also, and this is critically where if you can maybe say it's okay for him to have the inventory access, that's his job. He also has access to the waybill printer.
Yeah.
The way, and I've never said printer like that. I felt like I'm trying to make it dramatic. Printer, waybill, printer. No, Simran. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how you protect access from a printer. What do you do there? What kind of protection controls?
I've been in offices where you cannot, for the life of you, get access to the printer. It's always tied to your login and, your department, and they track everything you print.
Where have you worked?
I used to temp, so
okay.
I've worked in places where I had access to so many, like I worked in an accounting firm, I won't say the name. It was like a mom and pop place, and I had access to all these files.
See, segregation of duties.
I was like the desk guy for the day, and I could go through like their freaking Whole Foods invoice, you know what I mean? Like their receipts.
Well, that's the thing,
like
right? Josh, if you have access to that, the next step, you need to have another access point. Like, so if you have access to like information where you can do something, not that you would do this, but theoretically, you got to have the next step. And that's what Simran had. He actually has 3 access points. And I'm going to get to another one. But having access to that waybill printer that should have had a code. And again, these are what we call internal controls, something to make sure that only the authorized people have access to it. Because I cannot see, the other way to look at this too, if Panesar had both access to the inventory system and the waybill, so he could look at the inventory and then redirect the inventory, that's just a design, what's called a design issue. Like, there's no way, you've already identified that shouldn't happen. You can't have someone have access to, let's say, the cash in a vault, but also be able to make the records show that the cash disappeared.
Yeah.
Because then you could get away with stealing. So that's what happened here. So I don't know. Should there have been, a fence? I guess we've already used the word fence. I don't want to confuse people because we're using fencing in the street lingo of stealing. But should there have been something around this printer? If you could guard a printer and you could do whatever you want to make sure that no one could get to that printer except for those that are authorized, what would you do? Where would your thoughts go?
I'm a little disappointed in this case because there's no lasers. There's no lasers. Smoke they have to like jump through. But maybe the printer could be guarded with like an intricate path of lasers where you have to weave your way through to get printer access, because if they can access the printer, they can access the gold. So the printer is just as valuable as all that gold.
This is great stuff about how we actually prevent or detect this. And lasers, I haven't read that anywhere yet, though. But I think once this podcast is out there, we're going to see a lot more lasers around printers printing waybills. Very specific things, but
They're an underrated security tool. I will say that.
I'm a big fan of lasers. And then, if anybody can get through them, then that's awesome. That means
They've
very
earned
flexible.
it. At that
They've
point.
earned it. You just give them the gold. I wouldn't even start an investigation if you get through lasers. So here we go. So now you get the waybill. We talked about the waybill. Okay. Now, remember that we talked about the getaway time. So now the gold's getting into the truck. You need some getaway time. You can't control when the Brinks truck is going to get there. What else could you do to maybe give yourself, Simran, who has access to, it seems like every single system access at Air Canada, again, I'm joking, Air Canada. What could you do to maybe get yourself some more time for the gold in the truck driven by Durante to get away?
Like, you're asking, what could you do to make it a smoother getaway?
Like a longer time before anyone notices the gold is missing.
Yeah. Just some banal delay. I think banal is the key here. Hey,
I like the word banal.
We're backed up. I know you're on the way, but go get a coffee or something. It's going to be, 55 minutes longer than normal or whatever, just to like stretch it out a bit.
So actually delay the Brinks truck from getting there and discovering the process of discovering the gold is missing.
Yeah, and airports are almost synonymous with delay. I think that's would be a totally plausible thing. Like, oh yeah, the plane was late. We barely, I bet it happened all the time. Like, the plane was late, so don't come tonight. Maybe he could have even stretched it out to like the next day if he wanted to.
Don't pick up the $15 million of gold. Just leave it in there with the seafood. Leave it in there with the seafood and the things that come in from $2 Amazon being shipped across. I guess it's coming from Zurich, so probably. But there's not there's actually cargo from everywhere in there. So there's gold, there's probably, I'm trying to think of a cheap thing you get off Amazon. Anything,
I don't know,
I
but
guess.
seafood I feel like has urgency. Gold isn't going to go bad.
That's true. I'm getting worried about seafood now with this whole case. This is really not the point of
It is
this
freaking me
podcast.
out.
It's going to be called the seafood complex is what's going to happen at the end of this. So you're right. And I would also think about it that way. Delane Brinks, Panesar is on next level, Josh. Simran Panesar he's got access to everything at Air Canada. Again, I'm joking, a little hyperbole. But guess what Panesar did? He did not make a call to Brinks. He did not delay anything by putting himself out there. Here is a quote from the Crown document. Again, thank you, Fifth Estate, for this. Panesar also manipulated the Air Canada cargo system to facilitate the physical removal of the container. Panesar also manipulated the Air Canada cargo system to facilitate the physical removal of the container. Another system. So he showed that
access to that as well.
Yeah. That's
yeah.
Do you know what issue this is, Josh? I've said it a few times, and it's okay if you didn't
Segregation of something.
Hey, listen, you 2/3. There were 3 words, and you got 2 of them.
Duties.
Now you got all 3.
Oh,
That's 100%. You're going to be a CPA at the end of this. Yeah. That's. So you think about all the things he had access to. He had access to the inventory system. He had access to the waybill printer. He had the access to actually change the inventory system on his own.
Yeah.
Real problems. And this is what the lead investigator for the case, another detective named Mike, he said. Panesar, was integral. You need him. He is crucial to this. Absolutely crucial. And that's what happened. And no, I feel bad, Josh. You know what I feel bad about? There's no lasers. There's no contortionist. There's no ninja. Nobody's wearing suits in this. I mean, we got the vests.
The vest.
But no Armani suits. Yeah, that's it. That's what happened.
I'm coming out of this energized because I realize I have everything I need to start now. My life of crime could start tomorrow. I got to go to the dollar store, get a vest. I got to get an old printer. And I got to get somebody on the inside. I can rent the truck. Really, I just need my Cimarron, and then I'm good.
You need the Cimarron is the key, though. You got to find the Cimarron. That is the real goal, is to find the Cimarron. But yeah, I guess that's a learning objective. That's maybe not what we're going for. Find your Cimarron to commit the heist.
Find your Cimarron. I mean, I'm fascinated from the criminal perspective, but I also feel like. Did you say Cimarron's currently on the lam? Like
he is on the lam, believed to be in Dubai.
I mean, it was $15 million US. I've heard, and maybe this is nonsense. You can't necessarily fence gold for its full value. You need to find a buyer. Maybe gold is easier to fence than a lot of other things. But say he got 10 million out of it. But now you're living a life on the lam. Is it worth it? He probably had to split it with a couple of, the driver got a mil, the organizer got a couple mil.
I'm looking at my notes here, Josh, and trying to, kind of get a, psychological profile for Cimarron post heist is not on here, but I feel you. Is it worth it for Cimarron? Feeling bad for Cimarron? I don't know.
I don't know if that's supposed to be the takeaway, but I feel like he could have waited for a bigger heist.
Oh boy. Okay. All right. Well, Cimarron pulled the waybill, not the trigger. He pulled the waybill.
Yeah.
And that was the heist he got. And that's the story of this. I wish now there's other detail, and it's not going to be for us. I'm going to give you some chances to ask some questions about post heist. That's not a focus here. But that is what happened, and it's amazing. I mean, this got all kinds of publicity. It's just it probably will be a Netflix. I think Netflix may add a couple of components that weren't part of this just to dramatize it.
Lasers, yeah.
Lasers. I think lasers and snakes. I think it needs stakes. But my question is, and we're going to go through sort of the learning objectives. What do you think, knowing what you know, and I guess I'll say Air Canada more than Brinks. What do you think Air Canada should have done? What would you say? Ways in which this could have been prevented.
These 3 words are dear to my heart. Segregation of duties.
Wow. And you're right. That means maybe having access, control over what systems Simran and others have access to, preventative things around the Weibo printer. In hindsight, do you think these are pretty easy to implement?
I mean, I don't think implementing anything is easy in a airport gold delivery setting, but look at the price of not implementing them. It's easier.
Right.
It would have been easier than dealing with the aftermath of this. Think of the paperwork these guys were filling out.
That's the big thing, right? I think you're right onto it. It's better to try and think about these things ahead of time than deal with the cleanup. Josh, I'll let you ask me some questions and I'll try to answer them. I do have some details, and then we're going to come to a close. What information would you like to know post-heist that I might be able to answer? Because we were really focused on the planning and execution and everything we've talked about. Post-heist, what would you like? Questions.
The driver, he had the fingerprint, is arrested?
Good question. I do know what happened to Durante. So Durante was arrested, and he was arrested in, I believe, Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh, just at 300 kilometers east of Pittsburgh in 2023, September of 2023, because he was driving suspiciously, and he had firearms in his trunk. That is correct. And then because Canadian police, Toronto police were looking for him, he was identified. So he's still under arrest in the U.S., I believe, at this point.
Okay.
Yes.
So how much gold did they end up recovering, if any?
Good question. And I think you said, and I have an image for you, Josh, believe it or not. This is image, and I didn't plan this, image number 6. Image number 6.
Ooh.
What are you looking at there?
It's a nifty, looks like it's gold. It looks like almost like a gold wire, like curled up. Yeah. I don't know if that was like melted down and changed form or something. It was
melted down because you seem to know a lot about gold, Josh.
Gold.
Untraceable. So a lot of the rest that happened was that the gold was melted down and it's scattered all over the place. This was recovered by the police. 6 crudely made gold bracelets. I think what I read, a total value of $89,000. So this is a fraction of the gold. But in other jewelries and other places around Toronto, they seized melting pots, cast and mold. So the gold was making its way around, probably not just Toronto, but other places. But yeah, they have not recovered that gold. That gold is gone. So Josh, any other questions that you have? And then we're going to come wrap it up, get into our learning objectives post-heist.
Yeah, just... these alleged criminals are still, it's making its way through the judicial system.
The 3 people, only with Simran and Chaudhry, they're still on the run. The only of the 3 that we talked about, only Durante was arrested, but there's a bunch of other people that were charged.
Okay, so the Durante, the driver, it just seems like, did they kind of get away with it? They got away with it. Like
I think they got away with it.
Except for Durante and...
Well, they did... Well, here's the last image, Josh. They did get something. The police did get something that was critical. Open up image 8. This is a critical piece. And again, I'm not... hopefully it doesn't come off as sarcastic to the Toronto police. I'm getting myself in a whole bunch of trouble.
Wow.
What are you looking at there?
Looks like a press conference put on by the Peel Regional Police. That's in Ontario, Canada Police Department. And they're standing, a whole bunch of uniformed officers in suits standing in front of a truck. And they've got flags, Canada, UK, maybe Switzerland. And it looks like they're taking credit for busting this heist or something like that. Even though it seems like, really, they didn't do much of a good job recovering any of the perpetrators or the gold.
Yes, I'm gonna be careful about saying that they're still working on it, Josh. But yes, they did. When I asked you, they did get something. They got the truck back. That the picture with the truck.
Wait, that was a stolen,
1 year later.
Stolen
1 year
truck?
later, they got the truck.
A year later,
in that picture, you see that truck in the background. That is the truck.
I didn't even know the truck was stolen. I thought they just rented that thing.
Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know if it actually, to be honest, I don't know if it's stolen, but the truck that was used, they found. That's in the picture. That's the almost mission accomplished, except they haven't got the other guys or the gold.
Wow.
So that's it. That's where we are. And other than Durante, the 2 other individuals on the run, I think Simran. Hopefully, I'm not getting this confused. Simran is believed to be in India. I had a picture of him, but I don't know if it's him. And Chowdhury is believed to be in Dubai. They're still doing the work. So there it is, the airport gold heist.
The beginning of a beautiful friendship and partnership for them, and they're just biding their time. They're waiting for they're going to make their next move.
That sounds like
for the sequel.
That sounds like Den of Thieves too. That sounds like another heist movie that popped in my head. Well, Josh, let's get into the learning objectives. So we're going to just list out the things that we've learned in this podcast, besides many things I've learned about you, Josh. The gold that you would turn into a seat, your knowledge of gold, your ability to be very thoughtful and thinking through about how to commit a heist, which, again, I think is perfect for us here at the Fraud Complex.
I think by the end of this series, you and I are going to be armed with so many tools and strategies. We can either be hired by the police to prevent heists, or we can just go independent and pull off a few heists. Maybe we'll be the guys with just handing over the file. We don't even have to do the heist.
We might, if I had more heist cases like this, which I'll have to dig up, Josh. Leave that to me, because the next case might not be a heist, because this was a special one. But we're definitely become more knowledgeable, at least I have, about gold and airports and waybills. So what have we done? We looked at identifying areas for risk of misappropriation of assets, fraud risks in terms of the big three words that Josh has mentioned, segregation of duties, areas where risk could happen, likelihood and magnitude, and making sure that when we identify, or Air Canada, or whoever, Air Canada, or United, or Delta,
WestJet,
or
WestJet, even though they're owners.
Any airplane with a cargo. It's not just Air Canada, and AC Secure, allegedly. Lufthansa, allegedly insecure. But allegedly Air Canada. Can I say that? And have it retroactively applied to it? Why? I'm treating you like my legal counsel. Anyway.
I'll allow it.
You allow it? Okay, I feel better about this. So what do you think I can say about ensuring that there's adequate, three words,
segregation of duties?
Perfect. And compensating controls, evaluating and assessing third parties. So Brinks, maybe should have evaluated AC Secure to make sure that the activities that they asked them to do, they could do it with the same rigor that they wanted from their own quality controls at Brinks. Identifying and assessing control systems, the control key systems, because Simran had access to everything, probably has access to my social security number, Simran. And then ensuring that their preventative controls over key documents such as checks or printing machines. And the last one, which I don't know qualifies, making sure you use lasers more often.
Yeah, laser the printer.
I feel lasers.
Laser the gates. You laser. If you have to ask a question, should I laser? Just laser.
Laser.
You won't regret it.
I agree with you. Should always laser. We have a few shirts coming from this episode, but always laser, just laser, baby, just laser. So that's it. We've done it. Our first episode, the airport heist. And stay tuned to more cases, not all heists. Maybe, in fact, Josh, I don't want to let you down. This might be the only heist I have right now at this moment. But if I can find more. But don't worry, there's a ton of interesting cases that will allow us to get into things and also make sure that we promote the use of lasers in all these.
Yeah, you're never going to go wrong with lasers. And no, I'm curious about other types of cases, because if I know a waybill can make me a fortune, I bet there's other things that can make me a fortune that I just don't know about. So this is the more options I have for my criminal career, the better.
Well, you know what? This is a great way to end. Even I just want to point out to the listeners, this is not the point of the podcast, but this might be very helpful for Josh in future activities. Thanks for listening to our first episode.